Hello, everybody. Hope everybody's doing great. Turn off this banner here. Let me know if you can hear me. I had some technical issues as we were getting started here, and my mic was coming in and out. And so I just want to make sure that everybody can hear me okay. So please let me know. But good morning, and thank you, everybody, for coming. I appreciate you being here. And, certainly sorry that I had to reschedule a few times here. This has been just a crazy, crazy, crazy month. So let me know if you can hear me. Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you, Patrice. I appreciate it. So, wow, everyone's fired up today. This is great. We're in the middle of what Dean Wesley Smith calls the time of great forgetting. And this is the time right about now, at least in the Northern Hemisphere. I know we've got some folks from Australia and the Southern Hemisphere here, but at least up north up there, this is the time when people start going downhill because, it's really nice outside right now, at least here where I live. And it's one of those things. So kudos to all of you for being here. I have a few announcements, and then I want to show some comments on what everyone's working on. This has been a crazy, crazy, crazy month for me. So a few things that you all may be interested in. First off, I want to talk about the little hiatus that I've been on authorlevelup.com. Although I haven't really been on a hiatus, I've still been doing power hours. But I've had a crazy speaking schedule this past month or so. I've done like 6 speaking events, and I've got a few more coming up. And so one that's coming up that you may be very well interested in, and Ruth commented on it. In that, I don't know why why my comments are white or are blue all of a sudden. I'll fix that our next break. But I'm speaking at InkersCon. So if you are not familiar with InkersCon, it is one of the largest self-publishing conferences out there. It's run by Alessandra Torre. She is a best-selling author, and she's also the founder of Authors.ai, which is editing software for authors. And I'm speaking there on Be a Writing Machine. So I wanted to let everybody know that I'll put a link up here. I'm speaking at InkersCon. Everything is live now. I've started to hear some feedback from folks that they've seen my talk. So I'm speaking on Be a Writing Machine, Writer's Block, all that good stuff. And so I drop a link here on the screen. There is a cost to the conference, unfortunately, but it is a very good conference, and you're in good company. And there's a lot of really good people that are speaking. And you can use the code LaRon for $50 off if you're interested. And many of them are on demand. Apple is doing a presentation there that I've seen. I got kind of private access to their presentation and got to speak with their merchandiser. And it's a really, really cool presentation if you want to learn how to grow books on Apple Books. So that was pretty cool. And then I think there should be some other retailers there like Kobo and Amazon. And you're just going to get a lot of really good advice on how to write and how to market. So inkerscon.com, I'm speaking there, and I had a really good time, and it's a very, very well-run conference. Maybe up there, actually, it is up there. I would put InkersCon and 20 books to 50K in the same category as like the upper echelon of events I've ever spoken at. Like, amazing. Absolutely amazing. All right. So check that out if you're interested. And then I'm also speaking at Writer's Digest, the Writer's Digest conference this week. I'm doing a speech on. I'm actually doing two things. I'm doing a half a day workshop, if you can believe that, half a day with me, talking about self-publishing basics. So if there's any of you out there who want to know the self-publishing basics, how to think about self-publishing as a business, how to hire an editor, how to hire a cover designer, how to market your work. I'm doing a four and a half hour workshop on Thursday. All right. And so I put a link there. I'm doing that. It's called the Ultimate Self-Publishing Masterclass. There is a cost to that as well, but if you're a beginner, Writer's Digest is really, really focused on helping people get into self-publishing the right way. And so I'm happy to partner with them on that. And I'm also doing a seminar with them on personal branding. So if you're interested in personal branding, how to develop a magnetic personal brand as an author so you can sell more books and connect with your readers, I'm speaking there as well. So I've got a lot more speaking engagements coming up. I'm going to be on the Indie Author podcast with Maddie Dalrymple. I'm going on there tomorrow. And then I'm partnering with, did anybody know Jessica Brody? She wrote Save the Cat Writes a Novel. So I'm going to be partnering with her. She's got a course platform, and I'm going to be doing a Scrivener course there as well. So really exciting stuff. A lot of things going on. And yeah, this has been a crazy season here. All right. So let's see what everybody's been working on. What's everybody, I'm looking through here and seeing what folks are working on. By the way, I typically do these writing power hours. I know we've got some new people. I typically do these power hours on the first Saturday of the month. We had the 4th of July here in the United States this July, so that didn't quite work. And then we also had I went on vacation last week, and so that kind of just threw a wrench in everything here. So I'm going to fix the comments during the break. So I'm just going to read them out loud. Cariad is working on science fantasy. Cool. All right. And then I'm seeing some Arjuna working on a story about a magical school, but it is not a Harry Potter. Okay, cool. Deborah Bryant working on a mystery novel with the spiritual flavor and drinking iced tea. Awesome. All right. And I'm actually working on a novel, everyone. So for those of you who don't know, I am in a new season. This season is what I call Beast Mode. And I did this last year, and I actually started doing writing power hours during Beast Mode. And during Beast Mode, what I do is I go into Beast Mode, literally. I try to write as many novels and books as humanly possible. And yeah, I started July 1st, and I'm going to end September 30th this year. And I'm doing 2 power hours. Well, I was going to do 2 in July, but that didn't work out. I'm going to do 2 in August and 2 in September. And it's going to be on the 1st and 3rd Saturday of the month. And I'll update my social media. I'll be sure to put it on my blog and share it widely so that you all know that I'm going to be doing it. But yeah, I've written 1 book already, and I have published another book. I published a book that I published a book that I wrote before Beast Mode, but I'm counting it. Not in the word count, but I'll include it in the Beast Mode collection. And then I'm working on a novel right now. So I'm working on Rat City, which is book 2 in my Chicago Rat Shifter series. So I'm writing a novel, and I'm about halfway through it. And I am, it's interesting. I wrote this novel, and I was like 50% of the way through it. And then I walked away. And so now I had to restart it. And it was a kind of painful experience. All right. So, okay, well, we are going on a little long here. So why don't we go on and start, and then I'll fix the comments. And a quick reminder that if you have any questions, please type question in front of your question colon, do that. And then that'll make it easier for me to see your questions when we go. So if you're new here, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to put a timer on the screen. And when I put that timer on the screen, it's going to count down, and we're going to write for 20 minutes. So you're going to pull up your writing app, write for 20 minutes, as many words as you can, and then we're going to come back and share what we wrote and what we accomplished, and then I'll answer any questions that any of you have about anything that you want to know. I know there's some Scrivener questions and comments floating around in the comments today, and then we'll take a 5-minute break. I'll answer those questions during the 5-minute break. Then we'll jump into another writing session, take another break, jump into another writing session, and then typically I end these right around 11:30 Central Time. But if you all have a lot of questions, if the chat is really lively, I'll stay on until everyone's questions are answered. All right. So I'm going to throw our countdown timer on the screen here. It is 10:09. I'm going to start the timer. And have a great time, everybody. Good luck writing. And I'm working on this, but you will see me on the screen staring at the screen. So inevitably, there's going to be somebody in the comments that comes in and says, "What's he doing? What are we talking about here?" Help a brother out. Just let folks know what the customs are around here. So happy writing, everybody. All right, everybody, about a 2-minute warning, just a little bit under 2 minutes. We're going to come back. All right, everybody. So I got a little ticker on the bottom here. I want to know what your word count was for the session, and I also want to know how you're feeling. So how did the words feel? Because I'm a big believer that if the words feel good, or if you feel good, then the words will be good too. All right. So I'll give things a second to come in here. I saw some comments come in over the session that I want to address. So let me know what your word count is, and then I'll start to get through some questions here. Okay, manifested by the Aten. Hope I said that correctly. Why are editors so expensive nowadays? That is a good question. It's my perspective. Editors really are not more expensive now than they were when I started 7 years ago. You just have to know where to find them. So the great thing about editing compared to cover design is a totally different animal. The great thing about editing is you can always find an editor to suit your budget. So whatever your budget is, I would recommend going to like a site like Upwork. And then what you can do there is you can post your job and tell them what you want, maybe post a sample of your manuscript and tell people what your budget is and see who you attract. There's also sites like Readsy.com that are pretty good with that as well. Asking around, if anyone here wants to recommend an editor to Manifested by the Aten, that's cool too. But yeah, just keep searching. Keep searching. There are editors who do charge an arm and a leg, and there are editors who do raise their rates. But there are always editors entering who want to build up a portfolio, and so they often will work for a little bit less so they can establish themselves. And so you can, for years, just work with newer editors if you wanted to do that. But yeah, you definitely should be able to find someone for your budget. You just got to keep looking. Cover design is a mess. I think we're going to go through a cover designer shortage within the next few years because the prices just keep going up like crazy, and you're not really getting anything in return, and you're having to wait a lot longer. All right, that's a very good question. Okay, so the question that I wanted to address, and I'll get to everyone's work comments here. Manifested by the Aten also made another comment, and many of you jumped in on this and weighed in on it, so I appreciate that. I've been through a lot as an author with a lot of failures, and I was wondering if I should quit as a writer or not. All right. So a lot of you jumped in and commented on this, and I hope that was helpful to you, Manifested. Here is my take on that. I'm going to minimize this comment a little bit. I don't think anyone should quit as an author. something naturally attracted you to this that made you want to become a writer. And whatever that is, I don't know what it is, but whatever it is, I bet it's still alive inside you and you want to see whatever that reality is. So whatever your goals are, whether it be making money, whether it be, being successful, having a book that people are going to like and enjoy, whatever your goals are, that that's still real and it's still valid. And I bet, and I bet this would probably be true for many of you on the call today too, is that if you stopped writing and you quit writing, you would be even more miserable. So it's almost like one of those things where you almost need to keep going because the alternative is way worse. Now, I can tell you, I have had a lot of failures as a writer. I've had a ton. I probably had, I still have a lot of failures as a writer. I mean, a lot of the books that I publish don't always do very well, and I've had other failures too. I've had situations where I've worked with folks and it didn't quite work out. I've gotten myself into some situations contractually that could have been better. I've made a lot of mistakes in my writing career. And in many respects, I failed so much that I probably shouldn't even be here, to be honest with you. But at the end of the day, I know that I have to keep doing this because if I don't do it, it's way worse. And I don't want to know the kind of person I would become if I didn't do that. And so I hope that gives you some sort of solace. I know it's tough, and I know another comment that you had made here. Let's see here. Another comment that you made that really jumped out to me is like, failure is like the world telling me no all over again. And yeah, it does feel like that, like you put a book out into the world, or you're trying to get this writing career going, and it just doesn't seem to be happening, and there's not any money coming in, so it feels like you're just putting your work out there into a black hole. And really, I was no different in the very beginning of my career. I published a ton of books that no one bought, and there was a lot that I needed to learn, and it was very humbling for me. And I took the experience as something to be humbled by, just the sheer difficulty of how difficult this can be. And so just keep writing, keep improving, keep watching videos, keep finding ways to improve your craft, and you'll eventually get there. But it's going to take longer than a lot of people like. That's just how it goes. All right. And so don't quit, don't give up, my friend. All right. So more questions here. The question is, let's see here. What do you recommend for someone who would like to improve their writing skills? Yeah, there's a lot of things you can do. I've recommended some workshops over the years. WMG does really great workshops run by Dean Wesley Smith and Christine Catherine Rush. Jessica Brody, I've had a chance to look at some of her courses. Those are pretty good too. And then there's a lot of good writing books out there. I've done tons of different videos. So just what I recommend is there's tons of stuff out there. Find that influencer who resonates with you. There's lots of different writing styles and lots of different approaches, but really the best way to improve your writing skills is to write more, publish more. And then once readers start buying your work, that's your feedback on how to improve. What are they saying in the reviews? What are they saying when they email you and say, hey, I love this story? And start listening to what they have to say about what it is in your writing that resonates with them, and then double down on what you're really good at. And then there are some weaknesses I'm sure that everyone has. Figure out what those are, and you can shore those up with some of the courses and things that I mentioned. All right. Let's see here. Oh, I had to call this. I wonder if Michael's just pretending to write and actually reading the comments. I'm not gonna lie. I was looking at the comments a few times during my writing session this time, and I wrote 264 words because I'm looping. All right. So let's see here. A lot of questions. Okay. Mike Bates, word count 377. Great job. Great job. All right. Let's see. All right. Karen is at 30. All right. Still, hey, is what you got to do. Phone sometimes rings. Carried 90 words today, planning and not drafting. Okay. So that's all good. All right. Aubrey, I got 508 words, but it felt like a lot of work to get those out. All right, nice work. And Patrice, word count is 307. Very, very good. Senu Knight, 471. Louisa, 361. Great job. And Cariad, feeling frustrated, out of my league, working on feeling like I can do this. And you can do it. And there's no one out there that can tell you you can't. The hardest thing about writing is that war with yourself. Okay, someone asked Mike. Mike asked, is there a way to get Scrivener to automatically convert period to double space to period space while writing? The answer to that is I believe so, but I don't know the answer to that off the top of my head. Okay, let's see here. Okay, everyone's doing great. Okay. Oh, hey, Carvitora Libraia. I know I'm not saying that correctly. I just wrote something for the first time in over 4 years. Everybody give an applause. That's fantastic. All right. Okay, I'm going to go through here and see if there's any more questions because I know I'm going a little bit over here. All right. Are you serious? What are your thoughts about ebooks? That is a very broad question. Ebooks are great. Ebooks are fantastic. Ebooks are how the majority of writers are making their money right now. And yeah, that's my thoughts. Okay. How do you get back into writing after having the mindset that you need to quit after being a writer? Yeah, it's ultimately about working on yourself. You know, why do you have those thoughts that you feel like you had to quit? You know, a lot of times it's very difficult to fight the war with yourself. And so I've written some books on that, and I've talked about that, and all of it without exception is mindset. You know, it's all mindset, and and I can't change your mindset. You know, I can't do it. I can give you some tools, and I can tell you what maybe you think you could do, but ultimately you've got to come to that conclusion that you're ready to start again. And once you do that, that's when things start to change. Okay. All right. All right. Okay. So I know there's some other questions. We're gonna have to start up again. I promise I won't go off today until I answer everyone's questions. All right. So it is 10:40. Let's go ahead and start our next session, and we're gonna start at now, and the timer is on. Happy writing, everybody. All right, everybody, a 1 minute warning. 1 minute warning. All right, let's get started. Let me know what your word count is, everyone. And I'm probably going to skip reading the word counts this time, but you all have my virtual fist bump because we've got a lot of questions. All right, so I want to get to as many of them as I can before our third and final writing session. So Serena Samuel asks, how long is a novel really going to take to write? Well, Serena, that depends on you. It depends on how many words you can write every day. It depends on how many days you can write in a row, and it depends on your enthusiasm and willingness to write. So there are people that can write novels in a few days. You know, I'm one of those people sometimes, and there are people that take months to write a novel. So figure out what your base count, your baseline is for your words every day. So, for example, if you write, what does it take you to write 500 good words? All right. So most people can manage 500 words in a day. So 500 words in a day. Do the math on how long you think it'll take you to write your novel, how many days a week you'll be able to write, and that will give you a realistic opinion. It's one of the reasons I do these power hours is so that I can give people some more time to write. All right. A big black cat asks thoughts on flashbacks, their purpose, function, and structure. You know, flashbacks, they get a bad rap. It's to me, I'm a big believer in don't hate the tool, hate the execution. So you hear people say, "Oh, flashbacks. Oh, they did flashbacks. Oh, he did a flashback." You know, they roll their eyes or whatever. Flashbacks have their time and place. I think it depends on how you do it. If you flash back just as, you know, because that's what everyone else is doing, or, you know, you're just doing it as a device to help you get from one point to another, then yeah, readers are going to come down on you on that. To me, I think the most effective flashback is one that reveals plot and increases tension. All right. So if you can you can reveal something in that flashback that makes the reader go, "Oh, she," you know, shit. Cool. If you can advance the story forward with a flashback, even though you're going back, that's cool too. And if you can find a way to kind of do things a little bit differently and flashback in a way that readers won't expect, it's all good. So don't hate the tool, hate the execution. Quintus Ashby asks, are you trying Vella? Which I assume you mean Kindle Vella. The answer, my friend, is no. I'm just not interested. I get this question probably once a week. Michael, talk about Kindle Vella. Michael, talk about Kindle Vella. Okay, so I'm going to talk about it. It's a serial. If you don't know what it is, it's Amazon creating a serial, a way to write serial fiction and deliver that to readers. Here's the problem I have with Kindle Vella, and it's much love and respect to my friends at Amazon. About 10 years ago, there were a lot of self-published writers who were already writing serials. And a lot of self-published writers asked Amazon, they begged Amazon, hey, can you do something to make it easier to sell serialized fiction? And there were a lot of people, Johnny, Sean, and Dave at Sterling and Stone were doing this. I even had some serials going at this point. And serials were a big thing. And I know a lot of people are kind of new, but it's kind of, you know, some historical context that, you know, serial people are just not now writing serials. People have been writing serials for a long time. And Amazon now, just 10 years later, comes along with this. I don't know. I just I think they had their chance to do this, and they missed their opportunity. I'm just not interested in it because I have too much going on. I'm just not a serial fiction guy anymore. Um, but yeah, that's my opinion, my raw and unfiltered opinion. Um, Hopefully, I don't get stones thrown at me or get my Amazon account canceled because of that. But I think they missed an opportunity, and I hope people do well on it. It's just not personally interesting to me. But yeah, I have some other concerns with how the program is being run too. But I hope that Amazon will take the time and listen and figure that out. All right. How do you make, Amelia asks, how do you make a love interest more flawed? I always feel like the main character's flaws always make sense, but I always struggle with making the love interest flaws not feel genuine or real. Yeah, it's interesting. You know, I did a video on writing. I think I did a video on writing romance. I'll have to dig that out. I don't know if I did or not. But I remember in a video I talked about um, drawing on your own personal experience. So, this is kind of one of those things where people say, "Well, are you writing you or are you writing someone else?" I think we all have our flaws as love interests, as boyfriends and girlfriends and spouses. So maybe interfuse or inject a little bit of your own weaknesses into one of your love interests. Wouldn't that be interesting? Well, just take the idea for what it is. All right. Michael asks, "Hey, all, new here. Any clue on how often I do these sessions?" Michael, that is a great question, and that is a great car in your avatar there. I do these sessions once a month, first Saturday of every month. So, first Saturday at 10 a.m. Eastern, you can expect me to be here. This month was a little bit different, but for August and September, I'm doing 2 writing power hours. So, first and third Saturday of the month. And after that, we'll go back to first Saturday. All right. Let's see. Old Man Rolling Home asks, "It sounds cliche, but..." Oh, this was responding to the final, the thing we talked about failure. "It sounds cliche, but failure does make you stronger if you use it to get better. Always tweak your processes. I've failed a lot and come through." Thank you for sharing that. That is a great point. All right. Quintus Ashby asks, "Has your writing process changed over the years? What good habits have you developed?" My process has definitely changed over the years. The big thing that I've implemented is that I wake up at 5:30 in the morning during the week. That helps me get more writing in. But just the nuts and bolts process of things, I change my apps pretty often. I used to use Scrivener exclusively. Now I write my writing books in Ulysses, and that's kind of a weird, different workflow. So like it's kind of different. Like when I'm doing these power hours, I actually like doing power hours in Scrivener a lot more than Ulysses because Scrivener gives me a more accurate word count on what I'm doing. That's not a dig on Ulysses, but Ulysses is just kind of set up a little bit differently. But yeah, that's actually a good recommendation for a video. So I can't really go too in depth into that, but maybe I'll take that in a video. Okay, let's see here. Quintus asks, "What would make you quit writing?" Probably getting hit by a bus. Other than that, I'm probably going to be doing this as long as I can. Getting hit by a bus, or physically or mentally not being able to do it, such as an illness or something like that. But yeah, I'm all in on this, my friend. So it's going to take a lot to get me to quit. Okay. Another question came up by Manifested. "The publishing company wants me to do a radio interview with PBS or I think CNN from an up-and-coming project, and should I do it? It's going to cost me." Question I have is why would an interview cost you if you've got a publisher? That seems strange to me. So that's first thing. And I didn't think you had to pay to go on CNN. That's just, I don't know. I don't know. I've never been on CNN. I didn't think you had to pay to do that. I always thought that was earned media, but I could be wrong. But yeah, in PBS, I certainly don't think you have to pay to go on PBS. So it depends on what you're doing. Traditional media, sometimes it's a blessing and a curse. Sometimes you got to be careful what you wish for, because if you're a self-published writer, they may not always treat you the way you want to be treated, and so just beware of getting spun on. I've heard stories of people that have gone on traditional media, thought they were giving one interview, and then it ended up being completely different and ended up hurting their brand. Not saying that that will happen to you, but just going if you're going to do it, if you have the opportunity, just make sure you have clear eyes on what you intend to get. All right. Let's see. Okay, this will be the last one, and then I'll save other questions to move on here. Um, Abby J asks, "Is it okay to switch my book from Microsoft Word to Scrivener, even though I've never written a short story in Scrivener?" The answer is absolutely. You know, there's nothing stopping you from experimenting with another writing app. So definitely give it a shot, and if you don't like it, then you can always copy and paste it back into Word. And that reminds me, when we are done here after our next writing session, I have a tool that I'm gonna be unveiling. Not today, but I'm gonna tell you all about it. It has to do with writing apps, and it's free. And I think you all are really gonna dig it. All right. So okay, I'm gonna throw a timer on the screen here. Let's get our final writing session. It is 11:10. This will take us right up to 11:30. But as I said, folks, I will stay on and answer any questions that you have. So no fear. All right. Have a great writing session, and we'll be back in 20. All right, everybody, we are at about 3 minutes, 3 minute warning, and we'll be back and share our word counts and wrap up with some final questions. All right, everybody. Hope everybody did great. I am at about 1,200 words for the session. I had to do a lot of looping, but just I'm writing a chapter where someone's about to die, so got to set that up right. Got to set it up right. All right. So let me know what's your word counts, and then I'll drop in the comments here, and then let me know how you did. So we got a lot of questions. This has been probably the most question packed power hour. You guys got me working overtime here. So, Sanu Knight asks, in a story with a lot of characters and moving parts, how would a writer ensure that the world is internally consistent? Example, characters disappearing from the story, plot points going nowhere. Yeah, this is a really great question. I don't know if you are a plotter or a pantser, Senu Knight, but one thing that I do is I actually outline my story as I write it. So I'm keeping track of plot lines and story beats and all of that stuff as I write the story. And then I'm doing what's called looping. So every 500 words, I go back and read what I wrote, and then I go forward. And then every 500 words, I go back and I read what I wrote. And I just continuously do that as I write the story. And that helps me not miss stuff. So, I've written over 30 books. I'm on like novel 32 at this point. And somehow I've avoided that problem. So that's something that has helped me. That might help you as well. But if you track your story as you go, that might be helpful. All right, Serena Samuel asks, what do you do when the people or when no one or the people you live with care or respect the time that you're writing? That is a complicated question, Serena. It's one thing if your friends or people that don't live with you don't support your writing. It's another thing when the people in your household don't support it. And it's worth asking another question back to you: is what's the root cause of that? Why is it that they don't respect the time that you're writing? And maybe there's some common ground that you can find. If it's a roommate, who cares? But if it's a spouse or family member, children, that sort of thing, you just have to kind of treat that delicately and have those honest conversations. I can tell you that I have a very supportive wife and daughter. They're upstairs right now. They know I'm in my power hour, but I can tell you what, when my power hour is done, I'm going to be doing dishes. I'm going to be walking my puppy. I'm going to be doing a lot of stuff because I spent a lot of time down here with you guys, and so it's a love language. So I hope that you can find that love language so that the people in your life who you love can understand why this is so important to you, and you can give them what they need too. All right. Manifested by the Aten. I'm dabbling into screenplay writing. What does one do with that kind of project? I don't have much experience with screenplays, so I'm probably not the best person to ask on that. I'm trying to think of some folks that might be good resources, but I cannot think of any off the top of my head. But yeah, I mean, ideally, you'd want to try to get the screenplay into a movie, but I just don't know the channels to help you with that. All right. This is a really good question by Quintus. Quintus, you're asking some good questions today, my friend. So what's the most experimental you've gone with your writing? Well, I'm writing a book right now about a character who can transform into a rat. That might be up there. Fiction-wise, I've written a story, a series of novels about a group of anthropomorphic vegetable terrorists trying to take down an empire of processed foods. That's pretty experimental. Let's see what else. I wrote a writing book that is an atlas. That was kind of fun. I actually wrote a book that it was basically like all these imaginary places. It's called the Indie Author Atlas. And it takes all of the things that you need to learn as a self-published writer, and I turn them into locations. And it's the 5 continents of the writing world. And I actually I hired an illustrator to create maps for that book. That was kind of fun. I'm writing a writing book right now I finished a writing book on writing apps. And one of the things I was going to mention to everyone is that I'm creating a free tool, and it's a companion to the book, and it's all free. The book won't be free, but the tool will be free. And basically, the book is a companion to the database that I'm building, and it's basically like a writing app database. So you can search for writing apps. So, like for example, all my friends who use Linux are always telling me, man, you don't talk enough about Linux. So if you want to know all the writing apps that are on Linux, just go to the database, filter by Linux, and it'll give you a list with links. And then I also include all the different features that writing apps have, like the most important features. So like many of you like to write with dark modes, and you will not buy a writing app that doesn't have a dark mode. So you can click which writing apps have dark modes and get a list. You can click which writing apps have outlining support. So if you want to outline your book, you can filter it by that. If you want to know which writing apps are subscription-based and you want to filter out the subscriptions because you hate subscriptions, I hear that every week. You can filter out and look at only the writing apps that have paid like one-time fees, and then you can sort them. You can sort them by most expensive to least expensive, and then you can download like a PDF or a CSV to use however you want. So I'm going to be able to announce that next month. My developer, she's working really hard on it, and she's almost there. So I do experiments all the time, my friend. Every book I write, in many respects, is an experiment. All right. What am I reading at the moment? Another question. I'm reading a book called The 5 Invitations by Frank Ostaseski, and it is about death. It's about coping with death and what death really is and how to think about it in a different way. It is a very, very interesting book. He ran a hospice for a long time, and it was a revolutionary hospice. And there's a lot of stories about how he was with people in their final moments and what all that is. So it's a very, very interesting book. The Five Invitations. I would highly recommend it. All right. Next question is from Edwin Torres. Edwin asks, I started a novel back in January, but 20,000 words in, another idea hit me. And is it best to finish the current novel I'm working on, or is it possible to write 2 novels at a time? It is definitely possible to write 2 novels at a time. I've done that. I don't recommend it. And the reason I don't recommend it is because it's really difficult to switch tracks. You know, like, what did I write in this one? And then what did I write in that one? Like, it just gets confusing. And then especially if you're writing in different series, every series has different stylistic things. Like my Rat Shifter series, there's some stylistic things that I do in this that I don't do in my other series. Like, I spend a lot of time in the villain's head in that series. But like in my Good Necromancer series, that's a first person series. And so the first person is going to require different things. So it's kind of weird to switch. So I don't recommend that. I would recommend, if you can, if the passion is there, finish the low hanging fruit. So this is kind of actually what happened to me. I started writing a book I started writing this current book in February. And then I stopped because I had another idea and I went chase that idea. So I'm now coming back to it. So what I would do is pick the book that you're most passionate about, write that. You can always come back to the book that you stopped. All right. But if you do go back to the book that's 20,000, it may not take you as long to finish it. So like I said, it's kind of low hanging fruit. But writing 2 books at the same time is not for the faint of heart. Let's see. Okay. So Linda LaBruce asks, as a lawyer, do you have any tips for increasing tension in a court setting? Well, so Linda, I'm not a lawyer. And I've never been in a courtroom. I've just been to law school. I would say, I would say pick up a book. There's a book. I think it's called Closest to the Fire. It's a book about lawyers and attorneys, and I think it's written by a practicing litigation attorney. And there might be some really good tips in there. The thing about law and courts is that courts are very boring. They definitely dramatize it a lot, and so you've got to do a little bit of mental gymnastics to make it interesting, and also in a way that is not filled with jargon that your readers are not going to understand. So I did write a courtroom scene once in my very first novel, and I went to law school, and then I went back and read that scene, and I cringed. I got everything wrong. I got a lot of things wrong. Which is kind of funny, but yeah. So courtroom tension. When people get sued, they are extremely, extremely stressed out. It is a very difficult thing to be sued and go through a court case. So maybe you try to tap into that. People have a lot of fear and trepidation, and there's a lot of waiting when you're sitting around in courtrooms, and it takes a long time to resolve a court case. So maybe there's something you can do there, or maybe the tension doesn't even happen in the courtroom. Maybe the tension happens in like a mediation, when lawyers are talking to each other and trying to figure out maybe how to settle this out of court. Maybe that's a way you could go to. All right. Carvitora, what do you think about basing characters on real people you know or have met in your life? I think it's a phenomenal idea. Just think you have to be careful about it. Don't make it obvious that someone is based on someone or in your life, because that person may not like what they see. So what I do is I take bits and pieces from people that are either in my life or people that I've known, and then I change it up so much that you would never be able to recognize that person. That's what I would do. All right. Abby J. I already answered that. Sorry about that. What are your opinions on backstory? Backstory is essential. It is absolutely essential. You can overdo it, though. It's really easy to just throw walls and walls and walls of backstory at the reader. They typically don't like that. Typically, the best way to do it is to weave it in organically with the narrative. So if a character is doing something, maybe they're doing something, and then there's a little bit of backstory. and then they're doing something, and there's a little bit of backstory. Then they're talking to someone, and then that reminds them of a little bit of backstory, right? So you just weave it in organically, and that tends to be the best way to do it. The best way to see how to do this is to pick up a mega best-selling author. Okay, whoever your favorite mega best-selling author is, whoever that household name is, look at how they do backstory. They're masters at it. Figure out how they do it, and then you'll notice that's how all of them do it. And then you'll learn how to do backstory the right way. All right? Great question. All right. Oh, I had to mention this by Wylan. I hope I'm saying your name correctly. Frequent commenter on the channel. Stephen King got hit by a van, and he still writes. So someone had asked what it would take for me to stop writing, and touche. Okay. Question: is it better to publish one book at a time or multiple? If you have multiple to publish, I'm currently working on multiple books, and I think I'll be finished writing 2 of them together. Yeah, it depends on you. I mean, there's a lot of different considerations here. It depends on your budget too. If you can afford to publish 2 books at the same time, more power to you. It also depends on if you're willing to dedicate marketing resources to 2 books at the same time too. That's something you also have to think about. I've done it. I've published, when I write my series, like this Rat Shifter series I'm writing right now, I'm actually writing book 2. I have not published book 1. So book 1 is literally sitting on my computer. So I write both of those, and then I'm going to publish the first 2 books at the same time. And when you're writing a series, that's really helpful because some readers won't invest in a series until they see multiple books out. I actually wrote another series, my Magic Tracker series. I actually wrote that entire trilogy and published the entire trilogy at the same time. That helped improve sales. So, it's just one of those things. Just it depends on you, depends on your stamina and what you're willing to do. But 2 book launches at the same time, if they're different series, that can be a little stressful. All right. Brian asks, do you use images of people in Scrivener to help you develop your novels? I've been using pictures of random people in my current writing, and it's helping me to develop them. Yeah, I've done it. When I used to outline before I wrote, I would cast my characters. I'd find an actor or someone who I thought was a good representation of that character, and I'd pin it in Scrivener. So yeah, if whatever helps you write, do whatever helps you write. Okay. Oh, this was the comment of the day here. It's a tough business writing. Hard being around people who don't get why you can't call them back or why you don't watch TV. Truer words never spoken. Funny story. I was working with someone once, and we were just chatting, and I always kept my writing on the down low at this particular job I was at because I didn't want really people to know I was a writer. And he asked, "So what do you do in your free time?" And I was like, "Well, I like to read books." That's what I said. I like to read books. And they're like, "Oh, okay." And they asked what I like to read, and I told him. And he said, "Well, what kind of TV shows do you watch?" And I said, "Well, I don't watch TV." And he's like, "Oh, okay. Well, what kind of video games do you play?" I don't play video games, man." "Oh, okay. What kind of sports do you watch?" "I don't watch sports." He's like, "So what do you do?" And then I spilled the beans. All right, so it's kind of a funny story. All right, next question. Luana. My question is, how do I flesh my characters out so that they don't appear flat and one-dimensional? Well, one way to do it is the question that someone asked before on backstory, to give them backstory. Characters that have backstory don't feel one-dimensional. And then also to use the 5 senses to ground the reader in the head of that character so that the reader can see what they see, the reader can hear what they hear. And you can do that by, again, studying your favorite authors to see how they do it. All right. Patrice. I stopped writing because I tried to structure folders as Act 1. Now I can't see my entire writing. I see it inside a block when my book is highlighted. I don't want to erase. Patrice, I don't know what writing app you're using, so it's hard for me to answer that, but I'm sure that there is a way to solve that. Okay, so let's look and see how everybody did here. All right, let's see. Blessed or messy, 300 words, not my usual of 800 or 1,000 words. That's okay. Denisa, 213 words for this session. Very, very good. And Deborah, all right, 400 words for this session. Total 1,500 words. Very, very well done. All right. Karen, 12:18 final for the group hour. Very, very good. Quintus says, I also loop, but I do it at the scene level, and that's okay too. There's no right or wrong way to do anything. All right. Celinda, 11:29 for the whole hour. Thanks for the words. Well, thank you for being here. Great work, great progress. And let's see here. And I can't get to everyone's word count, so but I do see them. So 1231 words total. Did some research. Nice job. Okay, let's see. Quintus says, I made a physical sign that says, I'm writing, do not disturb. I explained to my kids and wife what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. Yeah. I always thought about getting one of those, like if you're in a studio, you see like recording in progress signs. I would love to be able to get one of those and put it like outside my basement door so like my family could see writing in progress and then just leave the sign on. I'm just kidding. That'd be fun. All right. Writing is the best medicine, Quintus says. I agree. Let's see. What else? Just going through here. Question, have you tried Plotter? I have not tried Plotter. Plotter is on my radar to test out and try. You guys know that I'm not a big outliner. So I outline as I go, but I don't outline before I write. I have no idea what my stories are going to be when I sit down and write them. I write into the dark, and I'm a true pantser in every sense of the word. So, but a lot of people have been asking me about it, so I've been thinking about taking a look at it. And I'm also thinking about building another database for outlining software. So I'm doing this database for writing apps, but I might also do one for editing apps and outlining software. I don't know if I'll do that yet, but we'll see. Let's see. Do you use Scrivener to build your outline as you loop or something else? It's funny you asked that question, Mike. I was on vacation last week, and I was outlining as I go. I usually use Scrivener. So what I do is I have like a separate document in the binder that's outside of the manuscript. And then for every scene, I have the point of view. I have the summary of what happens, which characters are in the scene, and then whatever, if someone's wearing something like a leather jacket or something. So that way I can keep track of clothing. But that's how I used to do it. And lately, though, I actually switched to using Microsoft Excel for my outline. And you're probably asking, what the hell? Why would you use Microsoft Excel? And there's a reason for it, because I built an editing engine. I've talked about this on the channel. I built an engine that basically helps me capture errors that I've made in the past before I send them to my editor. And so when I do that, my engine is in Microsoft Excel. It's in Word and Excel, but I find it's actually easier to like filter and like keep track of stuff in Excel. Way too complicated answer, but I've actually been using Microsoft Excel, but that was a problem when I was on vacation. So I may switch back to Microsoft or back to Scrivener. I gave you way more than you probably wanted to know on that. Okay. Let's see here. Quintus asks, when did you know you wanted to be a writer? Was it a moment? I've always been a writer. I used to write stuff a lot. I used to write in high school, and I even wrote in middle school, and but I never really knew that it would become anything. I had a near-death experience in 2012, and that's what prompted me to say, you know what, I really do want to do this. This is something I want to do. So that's kind of what prompted it. I do have a book. It's called Be a Writing Machine, and I talk about that in that book if you're interested in learning a little bit more about that. All right. Jocelyn says, cleared up a character description about 100 words, added to my draft. I want that writing world book, author level up. All right. It's called the Indie Author Atlas. Just look it up. It's authorlevelup.com/atlas, and you can check it out. And yeah, that's where it's at. So I wrote that last year during Beast Mode. That was a fun book. Let's see. Have you ever written something that you regret publishing? No, no, I don't regret anything I've written. I mean, there's a first time for everything, I suppose. But everything I publish with, my full faith. And um, now I've written some things that eventually became out of date. And if I could go back in time, would I've written some of those things a little bit differently? Maybe. But that has mostly to do with my writing books. But no, I believe in the stories that I write, and you do the best you can, and that's all you can do. And I don't beat myself up over something that I wrote. Let's see here. What else? Is reading the only way to learn how to write good novels? Well, it's one of the best ways to learn how to write good novels because when you see how others do their stories, it makes it easier for you to know how to do it. And to me, I think that's one of the best ways. Another really, really good way is to write more. The more you write, the better you become. And that I'm a big believer of that. Okay, let's see here. More questions. Yeah, I love all these questions here. All right. Any advice? Okay. Any advice for someone writing books in different POV, yet everything happens simultaneously? Yeah, that's a lot of my fiction. Actually, a lot of my fiction um, is in the perspective of different characters who may be going through things right around the same time, and it's a wonderful way to introduce tension into your story. I would say be intentional with the way you end your chapters. So there's a way to end your chapters on cliffhangers, or a way to end your chapters in a way that increases tension. And I actually have a book that talks about this. It's called the Writing Craft Playbook, and it's actually free. You can get it at authorlevelup.com/fan club. You just have to join my email list, and then you get the book right away. And I actually have a section in that on how to end your chapters. And there's actually like different types of chapter endings, and if you understand what those are, then you can start being intentional, and then you can start to end your chapters in a way that makes the reader turn the page. Because I think the key with this style is, okay, character A, character B, character A, character C, character D, whatever that is. It's the constant switching and the tension. That's really what I think makes this sizzle. So check out that book if you're interested. Let's see. Okay, thank you for the kind words, Nadira. I've been staying off of YouTube, but I always go back and check out some of your older videos for inspiration and a refresh. I really appreciate that. All right. Oh, just a piece of advice here from Karen. Don't know if anyone's struggling for privacy, but I've been known to seek a quiet place out of doors to write. Just me and my laptop, and occasionally the odd horse for those, or an odd horse or two who don't care. I would love to know what's going through a horse's mind when they're watching you write your novel. It'd be interesting. All right. Oh, Ty, thank you very much. I'm so glad I found your channel and all your advice, books, podcasts. I wish I'd found it before I published my first novel. Inspiration. Thank you very much. Okay. How did you get into YouTube? By accident and complete vanity. I saw someone say, "Hey, you should do a YouTube channel," at one point, and I was like, "Well, I could probably improve my public speaking," and I published some videos, and I didn't think anyone would care, and here we are. So, really fun, really fun. It's been a great journey. Focus Creative. Ever tried Dabble? Yes, I have tried Dabble, and I like Dabble a lot. I highly recommend Dabble. I've actually did a video review of Dabble a few months ago. It is probably in the upper tier of web-based writing apps right now, and it does a lot of things right. They've got a lot of features I think that they could integrate into the app to make it a better experience. But another great thing about Dabble is that it is a subscription base, which I know a lot of people don't like. But the great thing about it is that you can buy out of a subscription. So I think it's like $300 or $400 for a lifetime license, and then you can use it, forever, which I think is great. It's got a lot of really good features. It's got a good dark mode. It's got a good autosave feature. They're working on a lot of other stuff. They've got Pro Writing Aid integration. So you can, if you use Pro Writing Aid, you can actually just check all your work right there in the writing app itself, which I think that's the future. But yeah, I would highly recommend you check out Dabble. And I'm not getting paid to say that. Um, I'm not an affiliate for Dabble or anything like that. But if you are someone who likes wants to write in the cloud or write web based, I think it's a great solution. And the great thing about Dabble is because it's web based, you can use it on Linux, you can use it on your Mac, you can use it on maybe on your phone. I don't know if it works well on the phone, but yeah, they're doing some really good things over there. Who is your favorite author? I have a lot. Robert Louis Stevenson might be one of them. Ray Bradbury. Yeah, I mean, there's so many to name. so many to name. I like Elizabeth Bowen's short stories. Hers are always pretty good. Yeah. I mean, I have a lot of favorite writers, and I'm probably forgetting a bunch of them too. And I'm gonna go back and watch this and be like, why didn't I say X person's name? Michael Crichton. I like Nora Roberts a lot too. So, is there any novel series that really helped you as a writer? Let's see. Fahrenheit 451 really helped me as a writer by Ray Bradbury. Absolutely phenomenal, phenomenal book. Yeah, I mean, everything I read, I think helps me. There's no one series that's like, okay, that's the series that made me a better writer. I don't think that way. I think that everything I read becomes a part of me and my spirit, and it eventually seeps out somehow in the books that I write. Okay. Is it okay to do a lot of stuff like making music, doing pixel art, write books, and learn coding? I presume what you're saying is it okay to do things other than just be a writer? And the answer is it depends on your personality. I'm a pretty one track dude. I mean, I write books, I do this YouTube channel, and that's pretty much it. There are a lot of people that like to do multiple things. The big thing is not to be scattered. It's really easy to get scattered. Because if you've got an audience and you write books and then you do coding and then you do art, they get confused. And if you're not dedicated to something, they can get bored and move on. So I just think you got to be careful about being too scattered. But you do you. What do you think about teen authors? Okay. I think teen authors are the future. I think the next mega bestsellers are probably writing books right now. And I think that it's really easy to look down on places like Wattpad and other apps that are coming out right now for teens, and I think that's a mistake. I think that young writers are doing some things that are really, really interesting, especially in developing countries. So if you are a teen writer, then more power to you. When I was a teenager, I would have never thought in a million years that you could be a writer. I didn't know. I mean, the internet was out there, but people weren't using it like they're using it today. And man, if I had been 13 years old and I'd seen someone like myself on a site like YouTube. I mean, YouTube didn't exist when I was 13, but if it did, and I'd seen someone like myself or someone like Joanna Penn, oh man, I mean, just think about the early start that you could get. Like if you're 13 years old right now, or if you're in high school, and you're like, I want to be a writer, and you see a career path, I think that's powerful, man. Like, I started publishing my book when I was my books when I was 25. I can't even think about what my career would have looked like if I had started publishing when I was like 16 or 17, and you got a lot to learn when you're that age. You got a lot of growing up to do and a lot of life lessons to learn. But I think the future's bright. All right, let's see. Is there a word for describing forwards, afterwards, besides front matter? Not that I can think of. Maybe there is, but front matter to me, front matter and back matter would be the ways that I would describe them. Okay, Karen, what's going through a horse's mind? Easy, grass and hay. Maybe, but maybe there's a story up there too. All right, let's see. What video editing software do you use? I've thought about starting a YouTube channel, but editing is scary. Um, I actually don't edit my videos anymore. I have an editor. My editor uses Adobe Premiere. And before I hired an editor, that's what I used too. Premiere is expensive. It's not the easiest software to use, although it's not bad. And there's a learning curve, but Premiere I would highly recommend. Before I use Premiere, I use ScreenFlow, and I like ScreenFlow a lot. I would use it to capture my screen and do all that stuff. So I would highly recommend ScreenFlow as well. And the nice thing about ScreenFlow is you don't have to pay a subscription. All right. Oh, and someone recommended that they use iMovie. I have not used iMovie, but I imagine it's probably pretty easy to use. All right. Precious Cousins asks, oh, sorry about that. Is Grammarly good for writing a fiction novel? Well, I did a video series. Gosh, I have a link for that, but I don't remember what it is. I did a video series where I did a review for Pro Writing Aid. I did a review for Grammarly, and then I have a Pro Writing Aid versus Grammarly, and I did an extensive test. And it's probably time for me to test some apps again. But here's what I found in my own personal experience. I found that Grammarly is a good spell checking app. Pro Writing Aid is better for spell checking a novel. That's my personal experience. You can test the free versions for yourself and see. But the reason I like Pro Writing Aid more for fiction is because it's created specifically for fiction, and it's got some other tools that fiction writers can use. Whereas Grammarly is just a straight up, you kind of get what you get with Grammarly, and that's what you get whether you're writing fiction or nonfiction. But you kind of look at that and see if it works for you. I have Pro Writing Aid Premium. I bought the lifetime license. That's what I recommend. I would not recommend, I recommend Grammarly all day long. I just don't think the premium version is necessary for fiction writers. Maybe if you write nonfiction, but I just use the free version of Grammarly. All right, let's see. Oh, someone also mentioned Filmora. Yeah, Filmora is another good one. I have not used it, but I've heard people say nothing but good things about Filmora. Precious Cousins asked, "Have you read an N.K. Jemisin novel?" I have not read N.K. Jemisin yet. She's on my list. I think I do have one of her books on my Kindle though, and I know I'm in for a good ride. So let's see. Do you have any advice about writing groups and critique partners as a resource? Yeah, writing groups are great. Writing groups are great. I got no problem with writing groups. I think that you got to find the right one though. And sometimes they can get toxic, So, I'm a solo dude. I tend to be a lone wolf. I kind of just do my thing. I did writing groups for a little while, and they were helpful in the beginning of my career, but I found that I outgrew the writing groups that I was in. All right, and that's not a dig on them, but I just wanted more. I just wanted different things from my career, and I find that writing groups sometimes they don't evolve. So you want to find people in a writing group that are on the same level as you, who have the same career aspirations as you. Okay. So that's an important thing to think about. All right. Let's see. Question, traditional publishing or self-publishing? I have a video on that. You can look it up on my channel. Self-publishing all the way, and I talk about the pros and cons of each, though. How can or should front matter be worked into the story when trying to write an autobiography chronologically? There is such a thing, Daniel, as it's called the Royal Order of Front and Back Matter. So they're actually traditional publishers. If you look at a traditionally published book, there is a specific order that they use for front and back matter. And I can't remember it off the top of my head. I've got like a little resource that's on my desktop that I use to remember. Just type, I think there's a link on Readsy Reedsy has a blog article about this. So just type in like order of front matter, order of back matter, and look for the Reedsy article because they tell you exactly what order you should put everything. All right. So it doesn't really matter whether you're writing an autobiography or a novel. Front matter, the order is universal. All right. Let's see. I'm finding it difficult to know if I'm steering my story in the right place. Is there a rule or I assume starting my story in the right place. Is there a rule of thumb for this? No, not really. There's two schools of thought. The first school is to start your story in media res. I know I always pronounce that wrong, but it means in the middle of things. It's Latin for in the middle of things. So you start your story in the middle of action. There's another school that says you start your story just slightly before the action starts. I don't know that there's a right or wrong way. What I have tended to do that has worked well for me is I do what the mega bestsellers do. And if you look at the mega bestsellers, almost none of them start their story in the middle of things. They always give you a little bit of lead up. And so that's what I do. And then when I start a sequel in the series, like a book 2 or book 3, then you can start in the middle of stuff because readers are already familiar with the story. Okay. But that's just my advice. You can tell me I'm full of beans or give it a shot, but that's kind of two different schools of thought. Yeah, Mike says I use ProWritingAid. I used to use Grammarly, but found it did not catch things that ProWritingAid does catch. Yeah, and if you have the time, there's no one that says you can't use both. Like for example, Grammarly is phenomenal at commas. ProWritingAid does an okay job at commas, but Grammarly catches commas at a better. It polices. Let me take that back. Grammarly polices comma usage a lot better, I think, than ProWritingAid. Grammarly also helps you catch missing determiners. So, like if you say, I went to the bar, but you forgot Grammarly catches that at a higher rate than ProWritingAid. But ProWritingAid does a lot of things Grammarly can't do. For example, ProWritingAid can catch missing quotations. So, like if you start a line of dialogue, ProWritingAid, you start a line of dialogue, but you forget to close the quote. ProWritingAid can do that. ProWritingAid also does a pretty good job with a lot of other stuff too. So there's more fiction-oriented checks with ProWritingAid that I think are helpful. I actually use both in my workflow. But if you only have to use one, I would use ProWritingAid for novels. Let's see. Glad I found this from Devin Cutting's playlist. I've never made it to one of your lives before. Well, thank you. I don't know Devin, but I'll have to look him up and tell him thank you. All right. Well, folks, we are at the end of the Power Hour here. So I don't see any more questions coming in. So let me pull up the calendar and I'll tell you when the next Power Hour is going to be. And I will do my best to not have to reschedule here. So July just kind of got away from me. I'm sorry. I wanted to do 2 for July, but it's just not going to happen. I'm speaking at Writer's Digest next week and next Saturday, and then I'm doing a course with Jessica Brody the Saturday after that. So let's see. So the next Power Hour will be Saturday, August 7th at 10 a.m. Central Standard Time. So I will announce this on my socials. I'll probably also announce it on the YouTube channel. And then we're going to have another Power Hour on Saturday, August 21st. All right. So thank you, everybody, for being here. It's been great. And I loved all the questions and happy writing. Take care.